I think maybe we could start the meeting or have another something we would like to discuss before meeting.
Jennifer, what do you think?
You have something you want to discuss?
No, I think maybe after meeting or in future, we would like
another
to
time.
discuss about how to be a Taiwan chapter in IACRN.
Yeah, to be Taiwan chapter of IACRN, right?
Or
That would be wonderful.
We would like to provide a certificate to the clinical research nurse to develop a professional nurse. So maybe we would like to discuss about how to culture or educate the clinical research nurse to be advanced practice nurse.
Perfect. That would be wonderful. Let's do that. We'll plan another meeting.
Okay, Jennifer, are you okay? It's midnight in London, right?
It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
It's hard.
It's difficult.
I was
for
in New Zealand. I was in New Zealand last night at 2 o'clock.
Yes, yes.
And,
So
Jane
has been up for a couple of days, right?
I'm very tired. So I'm here now and I'm going to leave during the meeting quietly and Linda will stay. So I don't want, I'm so sorry I can't stay for the entire thing, but I do have to sleep. So I will watch the recording though. I'll be very excited to see the recording. So I've started the recording, so it's being captured and that will be available to people who can't be awake today with you.
Okay. We all are happy to have the opportunity to share our experience to each other. Yeah.
Okay, before Jennifer, before you and Linda off from the screen, let me introduce you in Chinese to all the participants in Taiwan.
Yes, 1 minute. Let me just, one more thing, Linda. So at the end of the meeting, Linda, you will need to, in the meeting for all, and I think there's a question about the recording and just say yes, you want to save the recording.
Yes.
And then that's fine. So just make sure that that happens. I'm sure it will, but that would be great. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Thank you.
That's okay. 那个介绍一下，现在在荧幕上左上角那个是 IACRN 的理事长。那他现在人在英国伦敦，所以是半夜2点。他应该等一下会就是去睡觉了哈，因为他昨天也有纽西兰那一场也已经 up for 2 nights。然后我们主荧幕的中间，现在请大家先看一下荧幕，让大家都看到脸好了。
照个相。
Linda， 我们有办法开荧幕让大家的脸先 shows on the screen。
Absolutely, I would love to take a picture too.
OK， 所以每一个人把自己那个荧幕的脸都可以先秀出来，我们 take pictures 留念一下，自己也可以拍。对，我们有录，就是拍一下之后，然后我们就开始正式的，对。
Could everyone
I see Taiwan, Lisa Yang, Shu Hui.
Ask them all to put their cameras
From
on.
Tainan.
Are you asking them to put their cameras on?
Yes.
Thank
so
you.
to take photos with you, with the presence of IACRN.
Yes, please.
好，赶快大家把荧幕都打开。我们想跟 IACRN 的理事长，还有在美国从台湾去美国的 Linda Wu， 那一直是这个conference connecting 的 key person。看到维尼了。
Elise, we have Elise here from South Africa. Elise, can you show your face?
There we are.
Hi.
Can you wave to everybody?
All right, everyone needs to put their cameras on.
大家先把那个荧幕打开。
讲英文。
Please.
Okay, please put
Bobby,
on your screens.
Kathy, KK.
Kathy, where is Kathy from?
there's Kathy, there's two Kathys. And let me ask her to
Kathy
unmute herself.
Gatige.
If you unmute yourself, Kathy.
Hi, everyone, unmute and then open your screen camera.
Kathy, where are you from?
Hi,
Oh,
Cassie.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, well, we cannot hear.
It's okay.
Okay,
Sometimes connection isn't always good.
right. Maybe Kathy can type it on the chat box so we will know. But welcome, welcome, welcome.
And there's
Okay.
another Kathy as well.
Do anybody wants to show their face? We only have like half of it.
Come on. I want everyone's face so I could take a picture. I need this for I'm doing a big talk next week about this visit. And I need to show
大
that
家
you were
把
here.
荧幕打开，然后让就是自己的脸可以在荧幕上出现，就是
Jimmy,
大
I see
概 5
Jimmy.
秒到10秒就可以了。请现在上线的大家把自己的荧幕打开。哦耶！
Tina, I see Tina. 张文燕. I can
林
read.
佳如，嗨，每个人先把荧幕打开。对对对，谢谢。
All right.
Good,
Okay,
isn't
I
it?
think that's as good as we get. So that's take a few
OK，
pictures. 1, 2, cheese.
哎，你们后面不到前面来吗？
One more.
到前面来
看
啦。
看 ，otherwise you can't show on the screen。
All right, we'll wait for you. 2 seconds.
One more
每
Linda，
个人场，
呀，
他们来我可能要。
Where's Jane's face? Jane, put on your camera.
呀
Oh, Jan. That's
see
Jan Gold.
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
，in the screen。
Jane
Okay,
from New
cheese.
Zealand, put
1,
on your
2,
camera.
3, cheese.
Jenny，你们有荧幕截图哈？你们有荧幕截图哈
All right, I'm gonna go to page 2. 1, 2,
Oh,
3,
Mimi.
cheese. All right, I got a few of them. All right, thank you, everybody.
Lovely to see you all.
I see Mimi Shin that I know.
Yeah.
Mimi is from New York.
OK，
Mimi, will you show your face and say hi to everybody?
There she is.
Hi.
咪咪。
So
From
Mimi
New
is from
York.
IACRN.
The clock on your back showing 2:30, right?
That's a screen. That's a screensaver.
It's not real. She always has the nicest. Mine's real. You can see it's not so nice.
OK，
Very cool. We have 32 people admitting.
Oh, Jane says she doesn't have
All
a
right.
camera.
So we
that's-
probably will.
Okay, so
begin-
Longston, at this moment, we have Jennifer from UK. We have Elise from South Africa. We have me from California, and we have Mimi from New York. And I'm sure more
Jane.
will join. Jane
Jane.
from Australia,
Zealand.
is it? New Zealand.
New
I'm sorry.
Zealand.
Jen from New Zealand yesterday. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was in New Zealand yesterday.
Yes, I was there with you. We
So
travel
we are
fast.
quite international, and I'm really happy. More will probably join later.
All right.
Okay, I think we can start. You can
Okay.
take over.
All right. Thank you. So the first sections. Is some introduction about the Clinical Trial Center from National Taiwan University Hospital, and the director, Professor Chen. He works in Harvard University too, and working with some clinical trial industry too. And he give us a brief introduction about the clinical trials centers in NTU Hospital, the largest and the biggest and best in Taiwan. So we can see the video pre-recorded by Professor Chen.
Hello, everyone. This is Chen.
We are not seeing the screen or hearing. Okay, good. Good.
This is Arnold Chen from the Taiwan University Hospital Clinical Trial Center. I am extremely pleased to have this opportunity to speak with you today.
Rosen, the sound is too far.
Mother is a nurse. My wife is also a nurse. Personally, nurses play a very important role in my life. And also, clinical trial days coming up, which yes, on both occasions, for those of you working.
Linda is up.
And if everyone could mute themselves, if they're not talking,
Greatest respect.
please.
You are doing very important work, and just very pleased at which days. So this is Taiwan, a small country on the western edge of the regionally, there have been much activities with regards to clinical trial. Most prominently, probably Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, and us, and certain big cities in China. But other regions, we see increasing activities as well. And hopefully, after the pandemic is over, some of you us and look forward to further discussion. This is from the Tourism Bureau. A lot of fun things on Taiwan. So this is about some data with regards to the number of clinical trials. Of the development of clinical trials activities top off after year 2000. I have some data to show you in subsequent slides. Investigator initiated studies in the 90s, but really took off after year.
Linda, maybe they could mute themselves too.
Yeah, we try to make the voice loud.
Linda, you're on mute.
Rosen, did you, when you started, you do the share sound? Because it does sound like, it come from a different source and it's very distant.
When you do, yes, if you unshare your screen, stop sharing. And then when you click share screen, on the bottom left, there should be a button that says sound, computer sound. There should be a blue button that pops up on the left at the bottom. When you're picking when you pick the right one that you want to share. Do you see that on the bottom left? And you click on the sound.
Are you seeing? Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is
Got it. Much better.
University Hospital Clinical Trial Center. I am extremely pleased to have this.
Okay, and then Rosen, you might want to mute yourself.
First of all, Happy Nurse Day. My mother is a nurse.
Oh, you cannot mute, I guess. If you mute it, and we cannot hear. Okay.
So unmute now.
Yeah, need to unmute.
Life. And also clinical trial days coming up, which is May 20th. On both occasions, for those of you working as a nurse and or on clinical trials, you have my greatest respect. You are doing very important work, and just very pleased and wish you happy days. So this is Taiwan. A small country on the western edge of the Pacific. Regionally, there have been much activities with regards to clinical trial. Most prominently, probably Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, and us, and certain big cities in China. But other regions, we see increasing activities as well. And hopefully, after the pandemic is over or under control, some of you will have opportunities to come visit us, and look forward to further discussion. This is from a tourism bureau. A lot of fun things going on in Taiwan. So this is about some data with regards to number of clinical trials in Taiwan. In Taiwan, kind of the development of clinical trials activities kind of took off after about year 2000. I have some data to show you in subsequent slides. There was investigator-initiated studies in the 90s. But really took off after year 2000. So this is the clinicaltrials.gov website in the United States. And these are the distribution of the number of trials in Taiwan. Now these include industry-sponsored trials as well as investigator-initiated trials. So a few words about us, National Taiwan University Hospital. It was founded more than a century ago, and then some years later, this particular building was built exactly 100 years ago, and the building still stands. This is actually the main entrance of a building of the hospital, and the building is still being used, for medical care and administrative purposes. This is an affiliated teaching hospital of National Taiwan University College of Medicine. The hospital itself actually is older than the university. So this is the National Taiwan University Healthcare Hospital. So it started as this one in central Taipei nowadays. But then over the years, we have developed additional campuses and branches all across the country. And this is Taipei on the north, and there are several branches. So this is the main campus. There's a new building going on. There's a children's hospital. And then not too far away, there's another branch. And then at the university campus, we have, a couple of years ago, the new cancer hospital was, the building completed and is rapidly expanding medical care. So this is very much like, cancer center in other countries. In the community area, there's a Jinshan branch, which is probably an hour away from providing community care. And then this is where Hsinchu is. Hsinchu is a county. And then one of the more kind of rapidly growing area in Taiwan, where the high-tech industry is congregated. So all these computer chips, many of the computer equipment, these chips running various computer equipment across the world are manufactured in Hsinchu. So there are actually 3 branches, and now they're being run as one major center. And then further south is a more agriculture-based county called Yunlin, and you can imagine aging of the population there, chronic care, long-term care, as well as critical care needed in this area, and this branch is doing that as well. So for the whole system, total number of beds is about 9,000. So from this point on, I just focus on the main campus. So this is the main campus is a full-service medical center, providing care from primary to tertiary care. As of year 2019, we have approximately 1,000 attending physicians of all specialty. and 2,600 inpatient beds, and we see approximately 9,500 outpatient care paid visits per day. So this type of arrangement is not uncommon, it's very common in this country, and I imagine in this region of the world as well, but it's very different from other countries, as in Europe or North America. In North America, where I'm very familiar with, hospitals are usually not this big. And then hospitals, you do not always maintain such large outpatient service or ambulatory care service. But for us, from a clinical trial perspective, arrange kind of the structure like this, make doing clinical trials, very much more efficient than in some other countries. I imagine that is also the case for Korea as well. In recent years, Korea and us are kind of growing our clinical trials capability. So this is our internal record with regards to a number of clinical trials, with initial approval at the NTU Hospital main campus. So about 15 years ago, we're starting maybe 100 trials per year. And then in recent years, we start more than 300 trials per year. So these are the breakdown according to therapeutic areas. As in many leading medical centers, the recent trial activities are mostly in oncology and cardiovascular diseases, and we are not different. Historically, due to the unique epidemiology of cancer in Taiwan, there have been a lot of trials on lung cancer. In East Asia, there are a lot of non-small cell lung cancer, and the epidemiology seems to be slightly different from that in North America and Western Europe. And also historically, Taiwan, is an endemic area for hepatitis B infection, and that what came with it, then we have fairly high incidence and prevalence of liver cancer. So there have been a lot of trials as well. I'm going to give you some examples, towards the end of this presentation with regards to lung cancer trial and liver cancer trial. And then due to the Western diet and reproductive patterns in Taiwan, the incidence of breast cancer is increasing, and then all that is consistent with what we know about risk factors changes, in Taiwan, and increase in cancer incidence of breast cancer, but also colorectal cancer. And then we cover other therapeutic areas as well. I also want to highlight the fact that we do a lot of vaccine trials. Under the COVID-19 pandemic, there are domestic vaccine manufacturers, and actually there are phase 2 trials of the COVID-19 vaccine going on here. So for the rest of the presentation, just want to give you some, share with you some examples. And those will be broadly divided into investigator-initiated trials and industry-sponsored trial. I want to spend a lot of time on this particular trial because the lead author is a nurse. And this is something that, I'm most delighted to have learned about this trial. I personally am not involved in it at all, but just want to highlight that this is a shining example of how nurses and physicians work together to address a very important clinical topic. And what is the topic? The topic is this. The topic is after surgery, for clean wound or clean contaminated wounds. So this will be like thyroid surgery or abdominal surgery, with no kind of intra-abdominal contamination, no rupture, peptic ulcer or things like that. So the question in Taiwan is that, okay, after surgery, is it okay or acceptable, for the patient, to take a shower? Okay. And I actually had a surgery before, and it was like this. And the general thought was that it's better not to have a shower because it may increase the risk of wound infection. But actually we don't know. So the best way to address, whether it's okay to take shower is to do a randomized control trial. Now, of course, you cannot do it in a blind fashion, but it can be done in a randomized fashion, with very objective evaluation of the outcome of interest. And then, of course, the outcome of interest was, surgical wound infection. So that was done in a blinded manner. And then patients were randomized into those who were encouraged to take the shower. You cannot force one to take a shower, but it's not prohibited. So that is the treatment arm. And then the comparative arm would be kind of the usual care. So the usual care, according to Taiwan standard, is that, okay, you should not have a shower, use towel to wash up, but then not a full-blown shower. So a randomized trial was done. So several nurses were involved in the wards, in the surgical wards at National Taiwan University Hospital. So this Dr. Lai was the chair of the surgery department. And Dr. Chan is a kind of a strong proponent of this trial and supportive of this study. Dr. Lai has retired, and Dr. Chan is actually the deputy superintendent of the cancer hospital of the NTUH hospital system. So the results was that actually there was no difference. First of all, the rate of surgical site infection was very low, which should be for good post-operative care. So the risk of wound infection was very low. But then even among those who take showers, after the surgery, the risk of surgical site infection was not higher than in the usual care. So this provides very good evidence to share with our patients. If you want to take a shower, it's probably fine. And so therefore, I like this study a lot, and just want to share this with you. There are other investigator-initiated studies, and so this is a collaboration between dermatologists and pediatricians, studying whether the use of melatonin may help with symptoms of atopic dermatitis. And children with atopic dermatitis, if their symptoms are being controlled, then they probably sleep. So this is also very important. This is one of a series of, and this is something called Helicobacter pylori infection. The history is that peptic ulcer disease is very common in many different populations, and the etiology of peptic ulcer kind of evolved over time. Well, the suspected etiology, sorry, this kind of this potential cause for peptic ulcer over time. Originally it was thought of as too much acid, gastric acid, causing the physical erosion, of the gastrointestinal mucosa. So then, patients were treated with drugs, that suppress the secretion of gastric, acids. So that kind of brought symptomatic control. But then subsequently, it was found that there was an etiologic agent, so there was a bacterial infection as the potential cause. So actually, investigators who work on it, 20 years ago, received a Nobel Prize for it, kind of elucidating the role of Helicobacter, in the development of peptic ulcer disease. Now in Taiwan, peptic ulcer was very prevalent. When I was an intern, we saw it all the time. But then after this etiology was identified, then investigators started to utilize and evaluate effective therapy to treat Helicobacter infection. And this is led by our current superintendent. So Professor Wu is a gastroenterologist. His mentor, Professor Lin, who was at one point the chair of the medicine department at the hospital, started this line of research, is to clinically evaluate in trials, in high quality randomized trials, to evaluate what would be the effective therapy for Helicobacter pylori infection in Taiwan. So this is just one of several studies, and all published in very high quality journal to evaluate what's the most effective treatment. And I imagine this line of research is ongoing as well. So this is the last example of investigator-initiated study at National Taiwan University Hospital. This is carried out by dermatologists and to study a condition called tuberous sclerosis. Now, this is a rare disease, with patients with skin lesion on the face. And then the investigators want to test something called rapamycin to see whether it kind of improve the facial lesions. It was an investigator-initiated study because there was no company that make this drug with this product. So the investigators took a lot of work just to prepare the regimen and then work with study nurses, and we're very pleased to have witnessed this result. Lastly, I just want to conclude by saying, giving you some examples of industry-sponsored trials. This is for hepatocellular carcinoma led by Professor Zhang. This is a very treatment, and then he's the principal investigator for this study. As more recent publication for atopic dermatitis, led by Dr. Who is a dermatologist at my hospital. And then this is for lung cancer, locally led by Professor Yang, who is the of the cancer hospital at National Taiwan University Hospital. So like Professor Zhang, so she work primarily in liver cancer. This is just the latest achievement in evaluating effective therapy. So he was actually the first superintendent of the cancer center. He has retired from his administrative position and turned over to Professor Yang. And then this is just a sequence of studies on non-small cell lung cancer in Taiwan. So in conclusion, this is a very brief sharing of this type of studies carried out in Taiwan. And just to give you some numbers, at National Taiwan University hospitals at any one point, there are about 200 research nurse or CRN, clinical research nurse. So they're doing a wonderful job supporting all the studies that I mentioned to you. So with this, I would conclude my presentation, and once again wish you all a very happy Nurse Day. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you. Very thank you for the director, Professor Chen's presentation. And for the time limit, we are not taking questions. We are going to the next presentation. And the one will be from the Secretary General, Assistant Professor Tang. And she is also a faculty in School of Nursing, National Taiwan University. Who will be the moderator? Okay, I turn the microphone to the moderator.
Okay, thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Carissa Ye, and I'm a master student here in National Taiwan University, majored in clinical research nurse team. And let's welcome the Professor Tom. And Professor Tom is talk about the Taiwan School of Nursing in NTU. And is Professor Tom online? Oh, okay, sorry. As a pre-record. So let's see the recording from Professor Tom. And he will give us a next speech.
Hello everyone, this is Judging Pan from National Taiwan University School of Nursing. It is my pleasure to
There's no share screen.
give you a little bit more.
If you can do share screen and then share sound on the left lower corner.
Hello everyone, this is Judging Pan from National Taiwan University School of Nursing.
There is sound, but no
To
video.
Is there sound? No
There was sound, but no video.
video.
You can stop sharing and then maybe restart again.
You need to share the correct screen for the video.
share with you a
Very
little bit
good.
about Taiwan and National Taiwan University School of Nursing, especially our programs and the nursing systems in Taiwan. Well, I just have 10 minutes, but I think this short introduction will help you to understand the environment of developing CRN in Taiwan. So I will talk about the university, the hospital, and also the nursing systems here. I also want to introduce some more about the School of Nursing from history, mission, our faculties, students, and international collaborations. So hopefully you get some understanding of Taiwan systems from my presentation, and also see some collaboration opportunities in it. Okay, so we will first talk about the university, NTU. NTU was founded in 1928 by the Japanese colonial administration. So if you have some understanding in Taiwan's history, you will see that we have been experienced a lot of different authorities from Netherlands, China, and then Japan. Well, but since NTU was established, it remains the most prestigious and comprehensive university in Taiwan. Well, until now, it's one of the top-ranked universities in Taiwan and in the world. We have 11 colleges, 3 professional schools, 56 departments, and over 100 graduate institutes. Well, we also have over 50 research centers, from Center for Population and Gender Studies, Japanese Studies, and Biodiversity Research Centers. So you can see we have abundant resources and research opportunities. We currently have over 32,000 students. Half of them are university students, and the other half is graduate students. And we have over 2,000 full-time faculties. Okay, so here is a map of Taiwan. We are a small island located in the Pacific Ocean. The size of Taiwan is about the size of Maryland State in the United States. You can see that the main campus of the university located in the north part of Taiwan in the Taipei city, including the university hospital. However, we also have other campus over Taiwan, like we have a Yunlin campus in the southern part of Taiwan. Well, while most institutions, most campuses are in the located on the western side, we also have the forests and the farms on the east side of Taiwan. Well, National Taiwan University Hospital in NTUH was established in 1895, and since then we have a lot of collaborations from teaching, education to research between the universities and the hospital. A little bit more about hospital statistics. We have 1,700 medical surgical beds and over 200 ICU beds, 47 ORs, 27 medical departments, and over 8,000 outpatient visits daily. The employees numbers is about 6,000, and a big part of it are nurses, so we have about 30,000 nurses. The hospital emphasizes a lot on teaching, research, and service. As a qualified international medical center by JCI. Well, we also have a lot of international patient visits. Well, although due to the pandemic, the number drops now, but normally we have more than 6,500 international patients receiving treatment at NTUH each year, and a large part of them are from the United States and Canada. Here you can see again the map of Taiwan and how the NTUH healthcare system locates. Well, it's actually an old picture. So the newest branch that just opened is our cancer centers. It's not in this map, but you can see in the northern part in the Taipei city, we have our main hospital and also the children's hospital. Well, we also have, while these main hospitals focus more on acute and critical care, other branches like Jinshan branches and the Yunlin branch, Hsinchu branch, that's actually focus on the long-term and chronic disease. So how about nursing systems in Taiwan? Nurse is a licensed profession since 1915 in Taiwan. And as we just mentioned that because of the political issue, so in the early years, the nursing systems affected very much by the Japanese systems. But while more and more nurses complete their trainings and advance their professions overseas, well, nowadays, I will say our system is informed more by the US systems. We have different levels of nurses, including diploma, BSN, postgraduate, and the master programs. Well, master programs have different tracks, which I will have another slide to explain later. The clinical working model is more case-based and the primary nursing. The nurse-patient ratio varies across the hospitals. Take NTUH as an example. For some special settings like palliative care wards, the nurse-patient ratio is about 1:4, and for other settings or other wards, it's about 1:7 or 1:8 nurse-patient rate. Here is a brief history of NTU School of Nursing. In 1880s, it begins with the care woman training schools, and then we have first vocational nursing school. In 1956, we established the baccalaureate program. In 1984, that's master program, and in 1997, we have the first PhD program in Taiwan. Our aspiration is to cultivate more professional leaders with advanced knowledge and skills, and to be the top college of nursing, integrating nursing practice, administration, education, and research to attend a new millennium in nursing. Well, the following slides is some statistics about our faculty, research, and students. So you can see that we have about 24 full-time faculties and some part-times. Most of the faculties are PhD prepared. Here are some research focus of our faculties. So you can see that we have a variety of research focus from supportive palliative care to oncology, long-term care, women's health, administration and policy, and the medical education. Well, I don't think I will go into the details about the statistics, but I want to show you that we have undergraduate program, postgraduate program, and PhD program. So for the master programs, we have 3 tracks and 5 major areas. These 3 tracks are CNS, clinical nurse specialist, nurse practitioner, NP, and the CRN, clinical research nurse. So CRN program is actually a very special one in Taiwan. Well, I may not have an in-depth understanding of CRN program in other countries, but in Taiwan, we are actually the first and the only program, master program, which focus especially in the CRN education. It's just an example of the curriculum of PhD studies in the NTU School of Nursing. I don't want to go into the details about the statistics because I think the pictures may be more interesting. So let's just go straight to look at some pictures. So the pictures here will show you how our students practice in the lab. You can see they are in their uniforms and to do some practice in the lab. And then we also, they also go to different sites. So in the clinical sites, in the bedsides, ORs, and the children's hospitals. Here are some more how they practice in the clinical sites. Well, School of Nursing and the university encourage international collaborations. So we have a lot of students exchange programs and also the visiting programs. So here are some of the pictures. On your left-hand side is our students visit Hong Kong. On your right-hand side is a picture showing students visiting Mahidol University in Thailand. We also have sustained exchange program with Kochi University, Mahidol University, and the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Well, we cannot do that since last year because of the COVID, but hopefully we'll resume that quickly. So these are the pictures and they are doing the exchanging activities. Well, we also host and join a lot of professional international conference. Well, so NTU School of Nursing is a very prestigious schools. The QS World University rankings, we are proudly to show you that 2020 the rankings is 39. So we have an excellent learning environment. We teaching, research, and clinical services. We have the commitment of the nursing profession to the society. And then we also have a lot of collaboration and we look forward to establishing more collaboration relationship over the world. Well, I think this picture will conclude my presentation today. Thank you all for your listening.
Okay, thank you, everyone. That's probably introduce about Taiwan a little bit and then about National Taiwan University School of Nursing. All of us, including me and the presenter, Assistant Professor Tan, and also Wenyu Hu, Professor Wenyu Hu, Director Hu, we all are faculties from School of Nursing, National Taiwan University. Okay, and next will be my sharing very briefly about the TACRN, or we should say the education development in Taiwan. I'm so excited to have our master students to share their experiences on their training, and several of the mentors also online now to see their presentation later. So my part will be very short and brief. Can everybody hear me? Is the screen and the sound okay? Jennifer, 2 a.m., you're still up there. Cool. Okay. I will really briefly to share, because I actually myself doing the CRNs about 20, 30 years ago, but that wasn't a name as a CRN. So we collect data and have patients informed and then do all the CRNs doing, but early days, there's no formal names and no organizations calling CRN, so we are just doing as nurse, but not as nurse to care patients. So briefly, I would say how we developed the CRN education systems in Taiwan way back to 1989, and supporting by Taiwan's NHRI funding, sending 3 nurses, the very pioneer nurses, to US to get some clinical trial nursing training. So those 3 bring all the professional knowledge and the practice back to Taiwan. And until about 10 years later, 1997, the Taiwan's NHRI has regular on-job training and short lectures constantly offered by the NHRI pioneer CRNs. And I believe the 10 years in between 1989 and 1997, they developed very much more practice guidelines or rules, but just not have a formal foundation. And because in Taiwan, we have national healthcare system, so most of the healthcare workers or nurses working in hospital, I would say probably 60, 70 or more than 80% of nursing manpowers are working in a hospital based. So CRN or research nurse are still very limited, or they are be seen as a research assistant. So not really recognize them as a CRN, but calling them as research assistant, RAs. So until 1997, there's more education and training and short lectures coming out about the clinical trial nurse. So up to 2005, there's a national goal to turn Taiwan into an island with biomedical strengths and technology advance to welcome all the global clinical trials. So at that time, there's more funding and supporting to develop CRNs in Taiwan. So after that, I would see that's a good developed and then advanced quite a big steps. So in the year 2005, there's many things happening in the education development for CRN. For instance, there's 4 faculties. They are all my teachers, 4 including Professor Wenyu Hu from School of Nursing, National Taiwan University. They are sending out a proposal for 5 years education and development program to educate and train CRNs for Taiwan. So I think that is the very beginning and a very big educational development program proposal. And also nursing professors initiate formal classes of professional roles and ethics for clinical research nurses. So that is probably the first formal school education for CRNs in Taiwan. And then also they have some focus group and consensus in many ways to begin to call ourselves as CRN. So CRN, the names be widespread and then named correctly. And CRN related course or seminars first in very few formal educational curriculum. So some schools in their last year of bachelor education will have one class introducing about clinical trial, clinical research, and then CRN's roles, but not so mandatory for all the BSN programs. Year 2005 also has postgraduate CRN program. So first established in NTU School of Professional Education and Continuing Study. So that's not the BSN program. That's for after BSN. So after offering to nurses who are interested to working from registered nurse, clinical nurse, advanced or turning to CRN. So there is a program. At the very beginning, they offer 18 credits, and now because the time limit, we are now offering 6 to 8 credits per year for the training. So now is the going to the 17th program, 17th years program for this postgraduate continuing education system. And then also supporting from the National Outstanding Clinical Trial Center, NTUH, to funding support to give us some fundings to host course and trainings for CRNs. And then in the 2009, Professor Tian just mentioned, we established the master program for CRNs in the NTU School of Nursing. And those are the our IACRN established in 2011, probably 2 years after the IACRN. So it's going to has more learning and collaborations from Taiwan to the globals. And the core competence we are training for our CRNs are around those core competencies from clinical patient care, the trial subjects care, and research competence, leadership competency. And we emphasize on ethics quite a lot in our class and in our education and the seminars. And also we focus on consulting, collaborating skills, because CRN do collaborate with a lot of professionals and patients. And the certification offered by the IACRN, we has done 2 years already. The first was in 2016, and the second one was hosted in 2019. And this year we are going to do the third time of certificate for level 1 CRNs. So hopefully all the clinical trials in Taiwan, we have certain percentage of CRNs be certified, and to enhance the quality of clinical trial. And here are our thoughts about the certificate. We want to have 5 levels of certification based on the beginner's ideas, from novice to advanced beginner to competent proficient and up to the expert. And those are, I didn't really change to English version because those are for local people to get certificate. And in the future, we want to connect with IACRN to have our certified, could be maybe equivalent or changeable or both recognizable for the certification. And we offer 8 competencies from clinical care to research to communication. And here are the level 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, their basic requirements and their knowledge domain and the attitude and the clinical practice requirement. And here are the core competencies description. So level 1 is more basic on understanding, self-learning, and up to level 5 is more globally and teaching and becoming expert and leading the CRN groups. So those are level 1 to 5. We have different training and evaluation and on-job training, education, evaluation, on-job training, and then to hopefully can connect to their salary, their responsibility. That's our goals for the certification. And here shows the two presidents from IACRN. They visit Taiwan in 2016. So hopefully next time we can have Jennifer or Linda visit Taiwan after the pandemic. So hopefully to have more connections between TSCRN and IACRN. So welcome to visit Taiwan very soon. Okay. Thank you. And because the time is very limited, and we're behind a little bit for the technical problem. So next we will really welcome a presenter, Han-Xin Huang. Okay, Ms. Huang is a master degree student and directed by Professor Wen Yu Hu. And so she is our alumni from School of Nursing Master Program. And she is also working in CTC Clinical Trial Center in NTUH. So Professor Chen, the first presenter, is her director, right? Her boss. Okay, so we would like to see hear some real CRN working experiences from Ms. Huang. She pre-recorded a video, and then after the video watching, Ms. Huang will share us some words.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? Okay. This topic is clinical trial in COVID-19 pandemic, experience of clinical research nurse in National Taiwan University Hospital from Taiwan. I am clinical research nurse Han-Xin Huang. In Clinical Trial Center of National Taiwan University Hospital undertakes clinical trial in many departments, including the departments of nephrology and the psychology, dermatology, pediatric, and oncology, and so on. And this is our picture. Although the global COVID-19 epidemic is serious, there are many strict infection control measures have been provided in Taiwan since the COVID-19 spread. For example, people should wear masks and be checked body temperature before entering hospital. Companies or visitors are restricted, and the access was controlled. But overall, the operation of National Taiwan University Hospital are normal. We can see the doctor or can perform any research-related procedure according to protocol. Now, let me show a video about the daily work of clinical trial nurses for you.
Hello，各位朋友，大家好。
那个电影电视，对吧？这个哦。
各位朋友，大家好，欢迎来到台大医院，我是这里的研究护理师安妮。那今天要来带大家去看我们工作的一天，那是为什么？赶快出发吧！那我们进去之前都要先刷看别人，不要看这个书，因为鼓励带可以吃。那我们现在就开始我们忙碌的一天了。刚刚回医师跟我说了，有一个新病人要入院，我现在要布置他们好。
那我再给你讲一下这个临床试验的一个同意书。那这个同意书，这个临床试验我们是要做什么研究的？
好啊，要来。好，天气的都是要是一个正确。
那我们现在已经出完病人的血了，那我们现在就要去我们的核心实验室进行理清。
对，这是你季节里的。
看完门诊，状况都上稳定，那我们现在就来帮他理实验用药。
所以这个是肌肉的问题啊。哦，不是，这2天起床，应该是我没睡好还是怎样？就整了，就本来觉得活体，可是我早上有看到筋就是上手这样拉一拉，就比较好，因为早上吃一点。
下班。要来。
我说还需要对。
Okay, thanks students to make this very good video. And in clinical trials, the most important thing to be able to ensure the research subject can follow the protocol. Therefore, in the COVID-19 epidemic, medical staff and sponsors have to take action in advance
to maintain the normal operation of the research case. During research periods, some questions will rise by sponsors. For example, if the hospital cannot operate normally, what should the subject do if they cannot return to the hospital on schedule in protocol? Or is it available for research nurse deliver the medicine to the patient's home? Are the doctors available to evaluate or consult by video call for any physical examination or any assessment? In response to many problems, we propose plans and relative measures that can be implemented in accordance with the different needs of each department. We discussed with the sponsor many times to determine the plan that can be implemented. Currently, our hospital is operating normally, and subject can return to hospital on scheduled visit or take examination regularly. According to COVID-19 epidemic situation changes differently every day, we pay high attention to the epidemic alert and relevant issues by announcing the Ministry of Health and Welfare. We will take any relevant interventions when necessary. We are likely that the hospitals in Taiwan can operate normally. Clinical trials in Taiwan have not been affected directly by COVID-19. We would like to say thank you to the medical team and nursing for their hard work. We still need to be alert to take some prevention measures to promote the public health and maintain the normal operation of the hospital. I pray for everyone and pray for COVID-19 epidemic in all countries can be well controlled. Thank you for your attention.
Okay. Okay, very thank you for Ms. Huang and also her team members. She took films and videos. So the master students make the short videos. And now we are so excited to welcome 4 master students. They prepare to share how they be trained during the master program as a trainee. Okay, the first one will be Xiaoyu.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi, good night, good afternoon, good morning. Okay. My name in Chinese name is Ye Xiaoyu. Okay, or you can call me Carissa Ye. I will give you some short presentation about how we train to be a clinical research nurse in NTU hospital. Sorry, let me show my PowerPoint. There be 4 students. We are currently in NTU master degree and we are first year here. Okay. And before in
Is the video and audio okay now?
No, we just talk in person. Okay. Okay, so we talk about how we practice learning journey as a CR trainings. And before we went to school, 4 of us, we have already some work experience can share us can share you. Okay, here's hello everyone. After I graduated from National Taipei of Nursing, I worked in National Taiwan University Hospital years. And after that, I've been to Shanghai as a nursing consultant for 3 years and back to Taiwan working in the National Taiwan University as a school nurse. Last year, we experienced some intense moment. And now I'm a master's student in National Taiwan University and also clinical research nursing this year in this hospital. And it's been a great honor to be part of the seminar. Although due to the terrible epidemic, everyone's actual distancing to have become farther and even isolated. But I also thank everyone for your hard work in the past 2 years, trying to find ways to get closer from inconvenience so we can continue to communicate through technology and the spirit of not giving up. And I believe that when everyone keeps this spirit and keeps going forward, we will definitely be able to overcome many impossibilities. Just like the current clinical medicine, every scholar is working hard for research, combining professionalism in various fields and expecting to give patients a more comfortable and friendly medical environment. And since I joined the field of CRN, I finally realized that many methods that we are currently using in clinical routines, such as the changing wound dressing process or the way how to prevent infection, or how to get a vaccine injection done, etc. Those things are the hard effort results from so many professional research teams. It was never easy to get how we are doing now. So research teams have gone through a long journey to verify the effectiveness and promote those results, not only to improve the quality of medical care, but also ensure the safety of the staff. So as a nurse student from Taiwan, I can say that the training process we are taught is based on scientific evidence, not imagination. Okay, it's been a privilege to be a small part of it. So, so you can see on the screen, here's the work I'm doing now. For example, as a research nurse, the project I'm participating in is to detect liver tumor through ultrasound combined with artificial intelligence technology. And I hope that the ultrasound detection system will be developed soon in the future and reduce the limitation and negligence caused by human eyes, which is why I said that each milestone of medical technology depends on the joint effort from each different expert. So very exciting for that. And thank you for your attention. Here's my brief talk and hope everyone's healthy and safe. And let's welcome the next student. Her name is Xu Xuanyi.
Thanks, Xiaoyu, for sharing her experience. My name is Xuanyi Xu. I'm a clinical research nurse trainee in Department of Oncology this semester. Actually, I'm not an expert in this field. Through a special experience, I learned that clinical research nurses play an important role in clinical trials. First of all, clinical research nurses have to obtain informed consent before enrolling participants in clinical trials, including consent discussions, making consent form easy to understand, enabling the patient to sign the consent form with full knowledge. Second, CRNs dedicate themselves to promote patient safety, such as managing adverse events, finding protocol deviations, and reporting to relevant units. Finally, data collection is indispensable. It's vital that what a clinical research nurse collects is first-hand information. I have learned something invaluable. Along with this experience, I hope to develop myself to keep pace with the challenge in the future. Thank you for listening.
Take photos. The third student. Hi, Yushen. You're working hematology, right?
Yeah. Hi, my Chinese name is Zhen Yushen.
It's a great honor to have this opportunity to introduce myself here. I have 2 years work experience in emergency department. Now I'm a master's student in National Taiwan University and also a clinical research nurse in hospital. As a CRN for almost 1 year, the project I participate in focused on hematology field. Because of the condition of patients with hematology disease varies greatly, we must pay more attention and care to them. The complexity of the study design is also a challenge for me. Be an advanced nurse needs more attentive than an emergency nurse. Thanks a lot to my preceptor Joanna Wang for teaching. Wish I can learn more from everyone here and seniors. I'm honored to be a CRN and join a big family. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, the last students, maybe the most wonderful one.
Hi everyone, my name is Payne, and I have 2 years experience in hospitalized ward. Now I'm a clinical research nurse at anesthesia department. I have now been working in research for over 2 years. I get experience like handling data, project managing, and making direct approaches to very senior managers and consultants. A clinical research nurse has to be able to manage your own time, prioritize, and pay attention to detail. Data queries can drive you insane, but that is what research is about. You learn a lot from problems. You have to be pragmatic and always look for solutions. When I started in clinical research nurse, I didn't really have much idea about what clinical research nurse might do. It just sounded like a really interesting job. At first, it was a challenge because the patient don't come to you. You have to go out and find them. Asking them to help you is an unusual position for a nurse. And I had to find my way around the system. We have to meet different specialists and nurses to discuss the research we did in the unit over and over again. As a clinical research nurse, I'm still learning and trying to keep my enthusiastic in this area. Thank you for your listening.
I'll go up to the second last one. Yeah, it's a good one, right? So you want let us know what this photo's about? So Ping graduates from CRN continuing education program. That's why she is still in master program, but she has some commencement ceremony with Professor Hu to get the certificate for CRN training before she get into the master program. And the other two, you need to say yourself.
Okay, the first one photo is I go to the Texas and have the training. Yes, and the third photo is I host the not host,
she assisted on the conference.
Yes, the Euro Asia. And the last one is a professor from French. It's a taboo about the microcirculation and the
sepsis, the very famous scholar for treating or study on sepsis, septic shock sepsis.
Yes, thank you. I'm very nervous.
Okay, yeah, wonderful presentation. And by the way, Ping is single, so welcome to friends all over the world. Global collaboration. Okay, time limit, and we are welcome Brenda Rose.
Sure.
We have one moderator to give a brief introduction about Brenda. Yeah, after introduction, maybe I can say 1 or 2 words about Brenda.
Hi, we are very honored to invite Brendan Stanley Ross to talk about the topic healthcare in Taiwan through the eyes of Canadian medical scholar mutual areas to learn and grow. Brendan studied at McGill University Faculty of Medicine and Yale University, participating in intensive Chinese course at Tsinghua University. His study mainly focused on China's rural economic development. And Brendan has also managed and organized multiple clinical trials. In addition, he has received many amazing awards. Now we take the time and microphone to our Brendan.
Hello, hi, I guess I can. Hello, hi everyone. I'm so pleased to be able to speak with you today from here in Taiwan. Also, I did not expect that introduction at all. Thank you so much. I also am so impressed that you found all those facts about me. So I am a student at McGill University, but I'm spending this year in Taiwan under the tutelage of Professor Chang. And it's a real privilege to be here, especially given the COVID pandemic. I did not expect to be able to make it to Taiwan, but I think that's a testament to Taiwan's wonderful approach to COVID. And of course, this week, we're all crossing our fingers that Taiwan is able to control the current 27 cases in the community. So I think, I know a lot of the talk today has been about clinical trials. I think for our friends who are maybe zooming in who are not as familiar with Taiwan, I thought I would share a little bit more about Taiwan's healthcare system in general. As someone else, as an American, Canadian medical student who came to Taiwan, I think there's a lot of things about Taiwan that are special. And so I will, at the end, I will also talk a little bit more about some research opportunities that I think are useful in Taiwan. But first, I'll just jump into a general overview. So first, I'm going to use this as a set of questions to discuss key elements that make the Taiwanese healthcare system unique when compared to systems in Canada and the United States. Also a little bit more about me. So I'm a Fulbright researcher here in Taiwan under Professor Chang. I'm working on the east coast of Taiwan at the Yuli branch of the Taipei Veterans Hospital, which is mostly a mental health hospital. So I'll talk a little bit about my experience there. And then I'm also going to talk about specific areas where I think Taiwan is leading in research and can hope to lead into the future. And again, grateful for Taiwan's COVID response to be here. So I think one question that actually I find really interesting is, how does Taiwan keep healthcare costs and administration costs so darn low? It's really amazing. So healthcare expenditures in Taiwan make up around 6.4% of GDP versus 17.7% in the United States. I know the United States is on the far end of the other end of the spectrum, but really Taiwan is on the, for a country with such a well-developed healthcare system, its costs are really incredibly low. And administration costs in particular, I think, are something to take note of. And this could actually probably tie into some clinical research in the future, clinical trial research, is that I think administration of healthcare in Taiwan is so affordable. Perhaps clinical trial research can also be very efficient here. As you can see, administration costs in Taiwan are around 2% of all healthcare costs versus 32% in the United States, which is staggering to me. And I think a big part of that is the NHI, so the Jianbao. So this card you see here is essentially a card with a chip-based card that every citizen of Taiwan who's under the healthcare system has. And I find that this QC card, this chip card is also very important for clinical trial research, because having worked on clinical trials at Dana-Farber in Boston, I find that a lot of the problem is around how do you collect people's data and how do you keep things discreet. Everyone has, there's one right there. And so I think that like programs like this are something that Taiwan could perhaps even export abroad. Okay, question 2, how can one see a specialist so quickly in Taiwan? I think this is something that, again, is maybe not directly related to clinical trial research, but it's interesting that the Taiwan system doesn't really have a classic gatekeeper. So there's not a primary care physician structure here. So it allows patients to go directly to specialists and lowers waiting times. This is a lot of good things about this, but also there's some challenges which perhaps need to be researched, including the fact that in Taiwan, the average patient sees a doctor 15 times per year versus 7 times in other OECD countries. So I think sometimes maybe it's good to have options, but the buffet in Taiwan maybe is a little too plentiful for some patients. And so there's a lot of freedom and flexibility for patients, but perhaps the system gives them sometimes too much control in coordinating their care. So I think that's a question I think for research in Taiwan in the future is really working toward quality over quantity. Right now, there's quantity over quality in the sense that 15% of patients in Taiwan fail to return to view their own MRI or CT results. So that just shows you that so many patients in Taiwan have a very short visit with a doctor. They get what they want, but then they maybe don't need all the care that they're receiving. So I think that some research in the future in this area could also involve capitation, which is a system currently developing in the US to change how doctors are paid in seeing patients. Perhaps doctors get paid to see a certain number of patients, but over that number, they don't necessarily get paid extra. Okay. And then this is just a quick graph I found that shows, it was a survey of affordability versus quality. And I think I just wanted to take a step back to say in general, while I'm here criticizing a few things about the Taiwanese system, you can see that Taiwan is the far outlier in providing affordable and high quality healthcare. And I think this survey was actually given to expats living in various countries around the world. And so I think even as a foreigner living here in Taiwan, I think everyone I've spoken to generally finds the Taiwanese system is incredible, and we're grateful to be put into the system. So, okay. And then a couple other things I think are interesting is why don't we have that, right? Why don't we have certain things that the Taiwanese system has? I think one other thing that could be interesting for, and I'll talk about this later for clinical trial research, is the incorporation of traditional Chinese medicine into their national health insurance system, which I think provides a lot of interesting space for integrated trials with different modalities. Also, there's universal dental coverage in Taiwan, which is really incredible. Coming from Canada, it's a huge question right now in terms of health policy in Canada, trying to implement dental coverage. And I think actually Canada could turn to Taiwan for help in that. And then also ambulatory coverage is covered here, which I think is very different from the United States and Canada. Okay, so a couple of nuances of the national health insurance system and how I think this could provide unique areas for research. One, I think, is again, research into integrated Western and Chinese medical treatments. So last year I helped a couple doctors. I'm not sure if it was actually this study directly, but basically looking at temporomandibular joint TMJ pain and using acupuncture for that pain. So NTU doctors have been, and dentists have been using a combined study at looking how to manage pain from TMJ. And I think the fact that the Chinese medicine treatments are incorporated into the national health insurance system really makes this research possible in Taiwan in a way that it's not elsewhere. I think Taiwan is also well equipped since it has longstanding expertise in both traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine. So it can really be a leader in this area. Then I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the nuances of the national health insurance system, particularly with psychiatric care on the East Coast where I've been based. So I'm going to talk a little bit about long-term care there versus short-term care. So I've been based at a hospital in probably one of the most remote areas in Taiwan called Taipei Veterans General Hospital, Yuli branch. And this is a really special hospital. It has around 3,000 beds for long-term psychiatric patients, mostly schizophrenia patients. It also has a general hospital there as well. And I think that another area, this is an area where they're doing a lot of clinical trials. And it's geared for long-term care. And it's called the Yuli model. So in Yuli, starting in 1998, they started a community employment program in the community. So this is the only place this exists in Taiwan to this extent, where patients are allowed to work in the community during the day. And then in 2000, they started a recovery home system in Yuli. So there's all these houses in the community where patients are living. 2006, they developed community rehab centers in town. And also patients work as staff workers in the hospital. So they're the security guards whenever I enter the hospital are patients. The janitors are patients. I find this all really amazing. I think this is also how something special about Taiwan is how well integrated the Ministry of Health and Welfare is with this research. So they're starting a family relationship rehabilitation pilot program that I'm working on to try to have patients reconnect with their families who they've often been split with for a long time. And I think since in Taiwan, this ministry also involves welfare, that it's interesting to see how patients are being asked to sort of help care for their elderly parents. Another program that's happening is a peer support program funded by the Ministry of Labor in Yuli, where patients and basically schizophrenia workers are talking to each other about their own experiences in the community. So it's having the patients become their own healer and teacher for their fellow patients. Okay, and then a couple things that are interesting about this. I think since this deinstitutionalization has been happening in Yuli, this doctor I've been working with, Dr. Chung, has shown that there's been decreased mortality among long-stay patients. Sorry, I spelled that wrong there. During the setting up of these community facilities. Studies are still ongoing, but I think this shows that if you take patients out of the hospital and into the community, you can actually help them live longer, which I think is a really amazing thing. Okay, so this is just one of the community centers in Yuli. And these are some of sorry, I flipped it up pretty quickly, but it's pretty beautiful. It's also, you can see it has huge windows, so it's meant to face the community and not to shield these patients away from the community. And this is some of the items they've made in their community center there, which I think are pretty beautiful. Yeah, okay. How much time do I have?
Oh, you have a lot of time.
Plenty of time? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So another thing I was going to
Tomorrow morning.
another thing I was going to talk about is that's unique to Taiwan is the traveling medical teams in Taiwan. So they call these 巡回医疗服务团队. And it's a specific model well suited for Taiwan's geography and demographics. Like someone said earlier, Taiwan is around the size of Maryland, so it's not very large, but it also has some very remote mountainous areas. Still, most communities are within around 2 hours of a hospital. And so I've been working, this is ongoing, and maybe with the pandemic, it's gonna get a little complicated to see if I can go up into the mountains, but I'm interested in how these medical teams going up into the mountains, how they deliver healthcare in a different way. And I'm curious if these traveling units meet the needs of local communities, particularly indigenous communities that often have different cultures and needs. And I'm also curious too, if these doctors and nurses who go to these communities, if they bring back different sets of skills and different sets of understanding when they work back in the cities. So this is ongoing. Okay, this is one of the most remote healthcare stations in Taiwan. I think this is also a good contrast to the pictures we saw earlier of the hospitals in Taipei. So this is a Lidao Weishengshi, and this is about as far up as the mountains as you can get before you're at the top of the mountains in southeast Taiwan. And this clinic here is open. You can see basically one morning a week, one evening, or so afternoon, evening, and morning, 3 times a week. So if you fall sick outside of these times, you either have to wait for someone to come, or you have to rush down to the city hospital about 2 hours away. So I think in this area, Taiwan, with its low cost, could perhaps increase its costs in the cities to help pay for services in these areas.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little bit more about health inequity on the East Coast. So I think it's one helpful example is thinking about the life of Huang Yishi, Dr. Huang. He's the urological surgeon at the Yuli Branch Hospital. He is also the dermatologist at the Yuli Branch Hospital. He is also the general surgeon at the Yuli Branch Hospital. So he basically wears many, many hats. And I think that what that describes to me, at least, is that someone like him, if he were to retire tomorrow, there would be 3 or 4 gaps in that hospital system.
Yeah.
And I think that it also demonstrates that there's considerable human resources available in cities like Taipei, where we are now. There's a lack of specialists and easily accessible clinics in many rural areas. Rural clinics are also less likely to be open in the evening and on weekends due to these workforce shortages. And below you can see the doctors per 10,000 people in Taipei versus the rest of the country. There's a big gap. And of course, this exists in, I think, most developed countries around the world. I don't think Canada or countries in Europe or New Zealand or US are much different, but it's pretty drastic in Taiwan. Okay, and this is again, as a sort of to illustrate this is a map of quality adjusted life expectancy in Taiwan. And you can see up here in the north, quality adjusted life years reach 77 to 79, whereas down on the East Coast, it's nearly 5 or 6 years shorter. So Yuli is right around here where my mouse cursor is, kind of in the heart of this area with the gap. Okay, so what are the challenges to primary care in Eastern Taiwan? I think uncertainty about the scope of local services. I think this is the same Lidao village. And I think oftentimes I was talking to people in the community who don't know what the doctors who come 2 or 3 times a week are able to give them. Do they have to go to the city for care? There's also a lot of variable knowledge about an education level of patients in these communities. Oftentimes they haven't had a college education or a high school education. So it's difficult for them to maybe communicate with doctors. Also, there's misalignment of incentives for recruiting doctors to local areas. I think that the pay for doctors in these rural areas is oftentimes a lot less than it is in Taipei, and perhaps there's an opportunity to complement their salary and have them stay. Okay, so one final thing I think I'd like to talk about is just future areas for Taiwan to lead Asia or even the world in mental health research and development. This kind of ties into the whole clinical trial research day. So I think one area is mindfulness as therapy, and in thinking about mindfulness-based stress reduction as a sort of a concept that Jon Kabat-Zinn developed in the West. But if you really read through his research, it comes out of this Eastern Buddhist tradition. And I think that's where he sort of got his start as well. And Taiwan is a natural hub for Buddhism, Taoism, meditation, and Qigong, with a population of 23 million. More than half the people here are recorded as either Buddhist or Taoist. And Taiwan already promotes mindfulness practices at a deep level. There's many temples all over Taiwan. One example is Fa Gushan, and they have their own techniques for living a healthy life and can act as an alternative entry point to public knowledge about mental health. And I think that Taiwan can really lead in this space just because they have so much traditional knowledge that the West lacks. And this work is ongoing, actually. So Taipei Medical University has promoted a mindfulness training, which also involves training for their healthcare workers and their physicians. And then also this is a paper discussing mindfulness meditation course and its effects on learning and cognitive performance among university students in Taiwan. So this research is ongoing here, and I just feel like this is a fertile place to continue to do this kind of clinical trial research. Okay, and this is maybe a little bit more controversial, but I think that there's a new frontier happening with psychedelics and mental health. This is a New York Times article just from this past week. There was a trial published from Johns Hopkins, I think just maybe a month ago, that showed MDMA as a potential therapy for depression. Both psilocybin and MDMA, I believe, within the next 2 or 3 years could get full FDA approval for the treatment resistant depression. And so this is apparently coming in the United States and perhaps in the West. And it could be a potential treatment for anxiety, depression, and PTSD. This is another article in the New York Times just 2 weeks ago that showed a study with MDMA for treating PTSD, and the results were really strong. I bring this up because I think this is going to swiftly spread around the world in terms of changing how mental health care trials are done. And I think that Taiwan is actually well suited to bring this, this new research to Asia. So there's a potential for broad clinical trials with the NHI and collaborations with US and European multi-site stage 3 trials. So a lot of stage 3 trials in Europe, they're ongoing. I think they would really love a collaborator in Taiwan to test these compounds in a different population. So, and this is also not that far-fetched in the sense that Dr. Dongbing Su, who I've also spoken with and worked with a little bit, is a leader in ketamine trials for depression in Taiwan. And he really had a lot of pushback against starting these around 10 years ago in Taiwan, but he's continued to do these trials, and it's been really important for Asia to have these trials being done on populations here. And he's also shown a lot of success that ketamine has worked as a treatment for depression in Taiwan. So I think this is an opportunity for Taiwan to lead Asia, which is historically maybe a more conservative area in its approach to this part of medicine. But I think it can contribute to global studies by investigating people with certain backgrounds here and how these drugs work in different cultural contexts as well. Okay. And finally, I think I'd just like to talk briefly about just my own interest in coming to Taiwan. And maybe also something that I think Taiwan could also contribute to is this field of transcultural psychiatry. So this is developed this concept kind of came out of a program at McGill, but includes areas of research including cross-cultural and cross-national epidemiology of psychiatric disorders, illness beliefs and cultural healing practices, patterns of psychoactive drug use, different patterns in different cultures with alcohol, cannabis, et cetera, and then attitudes towards the mentally ill in general. And I think that this is also an area where, in the Taiwanese context, it already leads this in its own way. And I think this is an area where they could even do more research in this space. This is just a conference of this at McGill in Montreal, but I think that Taiwan can contribute its own research in this area. Taiwan's a multicultural community, and I think that's often forgotten. It's not only Han people. There's people from different indigenous backgrounds here. There's people from Southeast Asia here. So it's a real place with a lot of community inclusion and diversity. It's also a place with a robust democratic civil society, and with its national healthcare system, I think it's well positioned to lead in this field in East Asia. I think it also can help to address current health inequities among rural indigenous populations on the East Coast. So in Taiwan, the indigenous populations, which mostly live on the East Coast, live around 10 years shorter than the rest of the population. So I think it's really something that needs to sort of be addressed. And I think working on these transcultural elements is really important. And as we continue to address these challenges, so this is just a local Amis community near where I'm working. And I spend a day a week volunteering with these preschool kids. And they have their own sort of different style of education, and I think might be different from some Taipei preschools, but I think they're incredibly valuable and lively and really provide a cool window into a different culture and their own values. And so it's been really fun exploring things with this preschool here and learning how their own culture approaches health. Okay, so I think just a few takeaways. I think like in terms of the clinical trial research I'm interested in Taiwan is maybe thinking about starting small and local and pursuing scale and impact. So these peer support programs in Yuli and also considering indigenous villages and this need for targeted care. So sometimes, of course, broad national clinical trials are important, but also how do you think about clinical trials in the community? And also then Taiwan can take advantage of its NHI's deep reach in clinical research for both psychedelics research or integrated traditional Chinese medicine research. I think these are two areas where it's just well suited. Also, costs remain low in Taiwan. So if you feel like you need to pay nurses more, you can. You just have to raise taxes. And like, I know it's difficult, but I think that I think a lot of the problems in Taiwan can also be solved by perhaps raising the costs on patients. I think patients have it too good here and you're too nice to them. So, and then you feel the same way probably. Finally, just incorporate local stakeholders. I think in rural areas, it sometimes feels like the doctors there or the local governments are not necessarily heard up in Taipei. So we're coming to you from Taipei today, but hopefully the doctors and the nurses in the rural areas can also have their say. Okay, so special thanks to Dr. Chang and Dr. Su and Dr. Wang and Yuli, and then also the Fulbright. And yeah, thanks. Okay.
Okay, very nice sharing. Thank you for Brenda. Actually, Brenda's Chinese is very excellent. She can speak in Chinese totally. She can type and write and read. So very nice to have Brenda sharing. Okay, the very last one and very important one is I can say is the mother of CRN in Taiwan. One of the mommy, right? Without Professor Hu, probably CRN development will be very delayed a lot. So the very last we hand to Professor Hu.
Oh, excuse me, because I also work in hospital because I am director in the National Taiwan University Hospital. So there are some emergency event for COVID-19. So I spent sometimes to manage it. Now I just to share some experience in Taiwan when we develop clinical research nursing. I think it's not perfect, but I think it's our life experience. Okay. Because my job, I work in my main job in National Taiwan University School of Nursing. I'm a director in School of Nursing, and I also work in hospital. So I have two jobs, but just one salary. Okay. So I think the Professor Zhang to introduce the clinical research nurse developed in Taiwan. I think I would like to say we have the history. We have some event when we developed the clinical research nursing. Initially, between the nurse and the clinical research nurse, there is the gap. There are many gaps between this clinical research nurse and the RN, because they say, what's the research related to me for patient care? They say the RN consider the research is not important for them. So we would like to develop the clinical research nurse become to professional role. So I think today I will introduce from global view of APN and the career growth for CRN. There are include 4 parts. The first, I would like to introduce the role and the EPA in APN. The APN is RN because the master level degree is recommended for entry level. This is ICN comment. So the APN nursing, we call the advanced practice nursing. They have the APN role have to include innovation and the challenge. So there are 4 roles included in APN. The first is CNS, the second is the NT, the third is the nurse nurse midwife, and the fourth is the nurse anesthetist. But I think the clinical research nurse, the role is belong to APN. This is equal, the clinical research nurse equal to APN. I think it's always it's always put in my mind. I would like to let the clinical research nurse become to APN. So we effort to promote the clinical research nurse development. So we know why I would like to say in Taiwan, because our president in medical college, he led me to develop the clinical research nurse role in our university, because the National Taiwan University is the leading research in Taiwan. So we would like to training professional clinical research nurse to complete the clinical trial or to get some scientific research finding. So and then another cause the global or clinical research density of activity from American or USA or Europe to Asia is gradually increase the clinical trial. The clinical trial increase. So this is the phase 2 and the phase 3 clinical trial is increasing. And the Taiwan is the leading country in Asia. So the dedication of research text, the nurse and the data manager spent many times to conduct the research, more than 16%. So the clinical research nurse is very important in the in the clinical trial development. So the clinical research nurse have to protect the patient's safety and get the good data. So the science and the ethics and the GCP have to be concerned. So we know the quality more than efficiency and then more cost. So who could improve the quality? So I think the clinical research nurse is very important. So the role of the clinical research nurse include patient educator or clinical trial supervisor, consultant, or case manager. So I would like to define the CRN role and the scope of practice and the APN competence for CRN. So the curriculum design, we would like to emphasize competence-based learning. So the developing competence is very important. So the competence-based learning in the clinical research nursing is our concern. So the APN in Canada Nursing Association, the clinical competence and the research competence and the consultant and the cooperation competence and the leadership competence is very important. But I think besides this, we think the clinical research nurse, what are the core competence of the clinical research nurse? So we would like to develop the professional competence. So there are several master students. Their dissertation topics is to do CRN job description and competence. So I think the core competence of APN, we know the APN is focused, population focus. I think the clinical research nurse, their population focus is research participant. So we could to say the clinical research nurse, she is an APN. So the clinical research nurse to conduct the clinical research, I think the nursing care always in the clinical trial process. So before and conducting the clinical trial or after the trial, there are many nursing roles in there. So this is our master degree students. Her master thesis is to develop the role job description of clinical research nurse. There are totally 233 items when the clinical research nurse to conduct the clinical trial. They have to do many intervention. So this is pre and the middle, post and the professional job description. So the curriculum of master degree in Taiwan, in National Taiwan University School of Nursing, there are five master program. The clinical research nurse is also the one of the master degree in our university. So we know nursing is very emphasized the caring. So the person is combined with body, mind, and the spirit. I think from the human development assets or from the place of healthcare assets, the persons may be ordered to receive health promotion or prevention or diagnosis, and maybe finally they fail the clinical trial is failed. They have to encounter the end of life care. So the palliative medicine is very important for them. So I think the person they lived under the social culture, contextual or environment. So I think the patient is very complicated. So the nursing care have to be emphasized the external environmental or internal environment for the patient. So I think the clinical research nurse provide play the nursing role. They have to provide holistic care for the patients. For example, if the patient is adult with CA and they lived in oncology ward and in medical center, maybe they receive clinical trial. So the patients in the very complicated situation, and then the total care for the total suffering. So I think the clinical research nurse have to be an advocate and coordinator, physician, patient, family, and the PI and the sponsor. So I think team conference and the many family conference is very important. So how to protect the human subject, nursing as an advocate is very important. So I think the core competence of the clinical research nurse, they have to we culture the CRN to have the clinical competence and the research competence and the research assets and the consultation and the communication competencies and the national vision and the leadership competencies. So I think this is very we emphasize the 6 core competencies in our curriculum. So we developed the education and the training program. We use theoretical approach to nursing, include methodology, statistics, and healthcare delivery system or role development. And another aspect is clinical core courses, like as 3P for them. They could to selected the courses. And in another aspect is specialty courses. We depend on the CRN. They are specialized in oncology or cardiovascular or the other different specialty. So this is our core course, theory of core course, the theoretical approach to nursing research methodology, advanced pharmacology, like as PKPD, courses. And the other, this is the first year, the master students have to study 16 credits. And the second year, they could to select the required courses is health policy, healthcare delivery system, or clinical course. Clinical course. They have to do go to the hospital or laboratory room to practice. And the other specialty courses depend on the clinical research nurse. And the other have, and there are two selected credits. There are many courses in our university because our university includes many different college. So finally, they have to do to complete master's thesis. There are 6 credits. So the center of the all clinical research efforts in patients. So we would like to capture the CRN emphasize. They care the patient is a whole person. So we use the e-learning or many different teaching material to teach them. So improve the OSCE skill teaching method. So finally, we would like to introduce, we would like to develop the clinical research nurse as an APN. So we would like to clarify the role of CRA and CRN and the CRC. So we would like to let our clinical research nurse different from the clinical research coordinator. We would like to let the clinical research nurse just to care the research participant and the family, and to concern they work in the hospital, in the hospital to care the patients, not spend many times to do some CRC job description. So clinical research nurse maybe play many role, include many care the patients, besides care the patient, and they have to communicate with the IRB or the government. So I think it's very important, very busy. So we have the survey to the intention of a clinical research nurse, their retention rate. The clinical research, about 40% of the clinical research nurse, they would like to leave the job because they are not have the safety. There are no safety feeling because they say the compensation and the benefit is not expanded and the workload is too heavy. This is the first and the second for the patients, for the clinical nurse. So we would like to decrease the loading of the clinical research nurse from the clinical research coordinator's job. So and the other lack of professional education and training. 是时间到了，快到了，没关系，把它讲完。真的吗？哦 ，OK. Excuse me. I quickly to report because we would like to we try to let the clinical research nurse is different from clinical research coordinator because in Taiwan there are many the PI always consider the clinical research nurse could do everything. So they are very busy beside to the research participant care. They maybe have to do many administrative work. So and because the CRC, the clinical research coordinator, lack of licensed accreditation, so they can to do many clinical trial job in hospital. So in 20, we have the last certification. Finally, we would like to establish the hand nurse leader in different department, and then the different manager, and we would like to let the clinical research nurse, maybe they could to do as associate director or director in our hospital. This is like is New Jersey, because we visit the Cancer Institute of New Jersey. We would like to establish chief nursing office for clinical research nurse, and they could to play the coordinator with the nursing department. Okay, so how do we prepare ourselves? Because if we don't prepare and work for it, what it will be. So we would like to effort to develop the clinical research nurse as a professional role. But we know the clinical research nurse take many things. So the compassion may be fatigue. So we know we always let the nurse, the clinical research nurse, they have to get scientific data for the thinking, and but we always emphasize the caring for the research participant. So we always training the patient, the clinical research nurse, to provide a holistic care. So we know thinking destroys the beauty of feeling, and without thinking, feeling has no meaning. But thinking and feeling are always very important in the nursing care. So we would like to, if the patient cannot to receive clinical trial, and they could like to, maybe they could to receive palliative care to get the good days. So we have to respect the patient choice. So we know the nursing fundamental responsibility include promote health, prevent illness, restore health, and alleviate suffering. So we would like to provide the patient, even when they are can to prolong the survival, we always could provide many treatment or intervention for the patients. But if the patient is terminal, they cannot to cure the disease, and then we could to provide palliative care for them, because the palliative care for the patients to get the good days is very important. So in our clinical research nurse, we would to provide the palliative care nursing for them, because in Taiwanese we like to pursue good days. Is the 5 blessing, is one of the 5 blessings. So the good days is very important. Taiwan is the palliative care is very popular in Taiwan. There are many hospital ward or hospital care or home care. So if will a patient receive the clinical trial, and finally they may be to enter to the terminal. So I think the pursuing the good days is Taiwanese hope. So we could to provide the seamless care for them. So if the patient receive the trial and then they enter to the terminal, we always transfer the patients to the palliative care ward. This is our training program, the goal of a training program. And finally, we know the community, the clinical trial may be to do in the community. So I think maybe we will to work in the community. Okay, so finally, we would like to provide the appropriate care for the patients. If the patients enter to the terminal, we don't to lose the opportunity of survival and also grasp the opportunity of good days. So this is very important. So we also put the ACP program in our courses, because in Taiwan, we have the Natural Death Act and the Autonomy Act in Taiwan. So clinical trial and palliative care is all important for the patients, even the patient in the terminal. We also to respect the patient's choice. So finally, I think we would like to search new professional missions. We always have the more than 10 countries to meeting in the platform. So we would like to do some cross-cultural research to understand different culture, maybe the patients or the research participants have the different needs. So the road in the future is maybe is not so clear, but I think cross-cultural or comparative cultural research in the future we will to do it, and I think we are family with the two. I would like to I hope this the whole the life experience to make me my dream come true. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's about the end of the seminars, and so we welcome the very last one, closing remarks, Professor Zhang, to give us a close. So when she says, okay, we can go to sleep, and then we can all go to sleep. Jennifer has been waiting for this for 2 hours. Thank you so much. And today we have a great honor to have our Canada scholar and our team and the president of the Academic CRN Association. So we also visit our virtual hospital, virtual visiting in our NTU hospital. So this is the end of our session, and thank you so much. How about everyone open your camera, so we can take a very final photos here. Come here, come here. People in the conference room, we're sitting here and with everybody's screen open. Yeah, and take photos. Hi, everybody, Jimmy Chen. Right. 这样我们应该不会挡到那个坐。站。坐的。坐的。镜头知道吗？他说照我跟他。对。理解。会不会挡到？我们就要往前嘛，他们才会往前可以看。荧幕上的人有没有人被我们挡到？应该下面他们维尼是会被黑的。维尼会不会挡到？维尼是那个有这个，对，有这个维尼。好，没关系。稍微再往前一点点。嗨，每位 ，Thank you。大家开荧幕哦，开荧幕。陆续的进来，你就一直拍这个。10点拍。会不会挡到荧幕的别人？还是你要爬到荧幕上？不会，现在没有，现在下面好了。好，谢谢。对，我刚才也在想。Hi, Jennifer. Eventually, you can go to your bed.
Welcome to Taiwan.
Yeah, hopefully see you very soon in
Bye-bye.
Taiwan. Hopefully see you very soon in Taiwan. Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. You're working so you have done so much for your home country. Hi, Casey from South Africa, right? Hi, Casey. Lisa from Taiwan. Elizabeth from no. Elizabeth Peterson.
那么多人。哎，你把它贴在那个聊天室那边。
Alright, bye bye. Bye bye, please bye bye. Bye, bye.
Thank you, everybody. Really enjoyable. I don't know if you look at the chat box, but everybody really enjoyed this very enriched program. And in such a short time that you really have successfully showcased what you have done in Taiwan. And I think, we really have a lot to learn from you. Not only you showing the profession that you have developed, but also the compassion to the subjects, to the patients, and the passion to develop this profession, from CRN to MPN. This is wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
2 a.m. Now it's 4 a.m. right?
4 a.m. 4 a.m. I'm going to bed.
Right?
I have to work
amazing.
tomorrow. I have to work, but thank you so much. It was so amazing. And all of your colleagues did such a beautiful job. You must thank them for all of us.
Yeah.
Really, this is what I was dreaming we would do this week. So you've made it really amazing. And
It's
then
amazing.
your
Thank you,
dream-
Jennifer. Yeah, Jennifer, your vision to bring this up, I think we should do more, really making the world smaller, and we really have a pockets of places that do excellent jobs.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's
thank
so
you.
much
Thank
to
you.
learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
for sharing.
everybody, good night. Take care.
Okay, I'd like to say big thanks for mentors online, because our master students has been taught and trained by many mentors from the hospital. And they are so busy, so we are not dare to ask them to present, but asking the students. And
They did beautifully.
has been very well trained.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very inspiring. Very inspiring. Yeah, very successful. Wonderful. Great job.
Yeah, you
We'll
have
see each other again.
Yeah,
in the next few days, we have different countries, so we hope that I've seen, several of you attended the New Zealand section, so perhaps, next few sessions we will see you again.
Yeah.
All right.
If you have any opportunity, I think maybe I would like to invite Jennifer and Linda to as our faculty in School of Nursing, National Taiwan University.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Our honor. Thank you so much.
To be adjunct professors, right?
Wow. Well, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. I would love that. So
don't make promise at 4 a.m., right?
no, I'm not going to say yes at 4 a.m. either, except to my pillow.
Okay. Hopefully.
Good night, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Everybody,
So,
Professor Hu, Rongjin, everybody. Lovely.
Linda,
I'm gonna stop recording.
Are you? Okay.